Your concealed carry permit is legal. You did everything right. But right now, a law says you are a criminal the moment you walk into a store, and the Supreme Court is deciding if that law can spread to your state next. Before we get into this, do me one quick favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. Because 90% of gun owners have no idea this case is even happening. And if this law spreads to your state before you find out, that carry permit in your wallet could get you arrested. I cover these legal updates every single week, so subscribe now and stay protected. All right, let us talk about what is actually going on here, because this is one of the most important gun cases in years, and most people are not talking about it the right way. Here's what just happened. Think about that for a second. You have your permit, you passed the background check, you went through the training, you followed every rule, and now you have to somehow know the individual permission status of every single private property you ever step foot on. That is not a law. That is a trap. Here is a hypothetical example to explain this. Imagine you are a law-abiding gun owner in Hawaii. You have your carry permit. You stop at a grocery store after work. You did not see a sign saying guns are banned. You assume you are fine. But under Hawaii's law, you are actually breaking the law right now. Because the owner never gave explicit permission, you could be arrested. You could face criminal charges, all while doing everything you thought was legal. That is exactly why this case is now at the Supreme Court. Gun owners in Hawaii challenged this law. They said it violates the Second Amendment. The lower courts, including the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, said the law was constitutional. So now the highest court in the land has to decide. And the stakes are enormous. If you're finding this helpful, imagine what else you need to know before the decision comes down. My next video covers the 5 states most likely to pass copycat laws if Hawaii wins this case. Subscribe right now so you catch that video the moment it drops. It could literally determine whether your carry permit survives into 2027. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The Supreme Court justices were not exactly friendly toward Hawaii's law when they heard the arguments. Multiple conservative justices pushed back hard. Justice Samuel Alito was especially critical. He grilled Hawaii's attorney and called the restrictions deeply problematic. The majority of justices seemed to agree that Hawaii's approach was too aggressive. And legal experts watching the arguments said it looks like the court is leaning towards striking this law down. But here's the part nobody is talking about. Even if the Supreme Court strikes down Hawaii's law, this fight is not over. Because right now, at least 4 other states have already passed very similar laws. We are talking about California, Maryland, New Jersey, and New York. That is 5 states total, including Hawaii. And legal experts warn that if Hawaii had won this case, more liberal states were already in line to pass their own versions of this law. Some estimates say it could have spread to 10 or more states. That is potentially tens of millions of gun owners who would have lost their carry rights the moment they stepped outside their homes and into a store. Now, quick legal note. Everything in this video is educational information, not legal advice. Laws vary by state and can change quickly. Always consult a licensed attorney for your specific situation. What I am giving you here is information to stay informed, not a substitute for professional legal counsel. Let us go deeper. Why does this case matter so much beyond just Hawaii? It comes down to something called the Bruen decision. In 2022, the Supreme Court decided a case called New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruen. That ruling said that any gun law has to be supported by the historical tradition of this country. In other words, if a similar law did not exist when the Constitution was written, the government has a very hard time defending it today. Gun rights advocates argued that Hawaii's default ban rule has no historical equivalent. There was never a tradition in American history of assuming guns were banned everywhere unless the owner said otherwise. That is a brand new invention. And under Bruen, brand new inventions are very hard to defend in court. Here is what most people get wrong about this case. They think it is just about Hawaii. It is not. This is about the default rule. Who gets the benefit of the doubt, the gun owner or the property? In 45 other states right now, the answer is the gun owner. You can carry on private property open to the public unless there is a sign or clear communication saying you cannot. Hawaii flipped that completely. And if that flip is allowed to stand, other states will copy it. That is not a theory. California, Maryland, New Jersey, and New York have already done exactly that. And think about this. The Montana Attorney General was so worried about this case spreading that he led a 27-state coalition. 27 states filed briefs in support of striking down Hawaii's law. They did not do that because they thought it was only Hawaii's problem. They did it because they know what comes next if Hawaii wins. Hey, real talk for a second. Right now, 73% of people watching this video are not subscribed. That means nearly 3 out of 4 of you could miss the follow-up video when the Supreme Court actually releases its decision. That decision is coming by June or July of 2026. Join the thousands of gun owners who get these legal updates first. Hit subscribe right now and you will never be caught off guard. Now, let me walk you through what happens next and what you need to watch for. The Supreme Court will release its decision before the current term ends. That is expected by summer 2026. Based on how the oral arguments went, most legal observers believe the court will rule against Hawaii. They will likely say the default ban rule violates the Second Amendment, but the exact wording of that decision matters enormously. If the court writes a narrow ruling, it might only affect Hawaii directly. If the court writes a broad ruling, it could wipe out the similar laws in California, Maryland, New Jersey, and New York all at once, and it would stop any other state from passing a copycat law. Here's the part that shocked me when I dug into this. Even California, which has some of the toughest gun laws in the country, has a version of this private property default ban. Millions of legally permitted gun owners in California have been living under this kind of restriction without fully understanding what it means. One wrong step. One store you walk into without knowing the owner's policy, and suddenly you are facing criminal charges. That is the real-world impact of these laws. Do not make this mistake. Do not assume that because you are in a gun-friendly state, this does not affect you. Laws spread. If Hawaii had won, your state legislature could have passed the same thing next session. Your city council could have tried it. This is how gun control works in modern America. It does not come from one big, dramatic moment. It comes from these quiet legal decisions that most gun owners never even hear about until it is too late. This information is moving fast. The Supreme Court decision could drop any day between now and summer 2026. Subscribe right now because I will be covering that decision the moment it comes out. That video will tell you exactly what it means for your state, your permit, and your rights going forward. You need to see it before you head out to any store or business with your firearm. So here's the bottom line on all of this. The Supreme Court is deciding a case that could either protect your right to carry in everyday places or give states the green light to ban your gun from virtually every business you walk into. The case is called Wolford v. Lopez. Hawaii's law created a default ban rule saying no guns on private property unless the owner says yes. 4 other states already have similar laws, and the decision coming this summer will shape gun rights in America for years to come. The good news is that most Supreme Court justices appeared skeptical of Hawaii's approach, but nothing is final until that ruling is released. Stay locked in, stay informed, because your rights depend on it. And look, I put in serious time researching this stuff, so you do not have to spend hours digging through court documents. The least you can do is hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you never miss an update. This channel exists to keep you legally safe and fully informed as a gun owner. Join us. And remember, staying informed is the first step to staying free.